Hi, this is Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 92. It's not hard enough. The Apple's Nano glass. Recorded live Sunday, June 2nd, 2024, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief over here at iTechGear.org, and joining us today, in no particular order, the usual suspects, the former contributing writer over at Gear Diary, and of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, and currently the editor or the host of the Linux Link Tech Show and the host of the Living in the Retro Arcade podcast, Brother Joel McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Had a kind of a gray hike today, but better yesterday was the Central Ohio Retro Gaming Society CorgsCon at the Ohio State Fairgrounds at the Kasich Hall. Had a great time yesterday and bought a new joystick.
Nice.
That was unlike any other Atari joystick you've ever had because it's an arcade quality. So made by BD Retro Mod. So I'll probably be writing about that eventually. Definitely going to be talking about that on my next Retro Arcade, which is going to be recorded right after this show.
Awesome. We will look for that.
So
also joining us this week, the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications and, of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you, sir?
I'm sore. I tell you what, we're in the throes of putting our master bedroom back together after having new carpet installed. And even though they did most of the heavy lifting, you just never realize how much stuff you can put in a room until you move it twice.
Absolutely.
In and out. So now we're waiting on our new adjustable platform split king bed and mattresses. We're looking forward to it.
Nice. Very, very nice. And of course, last but never ever least, the master of the dulcet tones and a royal pain in my ass on a regular basis. Former contributing editor over here over at Gear Diary, and of course, and Pocket Now, and of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you?
And you know you love it.
Oh, yeah.
Doing well. Another week coming into the summer. Well, not quite summer yet, but getting into that warmer weather, enjoying it.
Yep, and your birthday's coming up in a couple of days. Exactly a couple of days. So
sadly true, exactly a couple of days. So
yes, well,
I'll be another one older. Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go.
Well,
one more trip around the sun.
That's it. That's it. Well, this is not, you're getting something that's okay for, your birthday, at least in a couple of weeks, right? Because I believe
there you go.
The keynote is on the 10th, right?
True enough.
WWDC is coming, right? So I want us to go ahead and start your favorite rumor now, as opposed to later on in the whole thing. So
I don't know if I don't know if I have a favorite rumor. For this thing, right? But I think as we all have rumors, we all hear the rumors that are out there, and we're not a rumor show. That's not our big thing, but it's kind of hard to ignore this show because everybody talks about it before it happens. So let's have some fun with this and kind of go. I think the big one that I've been hearing everybody's all excited about is the ability to move your icons anywhere. Woohoo! I don't know if I personally care, but that's the one I keep hearing over and over.
I can't take it. Pinch me, I can't take it.
That's the one I keep hearing. All over the place, but I'm sure
will we have tint control? Will we have tint control?
Well, that's another thing, and I keep thinking. But I think the really big thing with this one, rumor-wise, that we keep hearing, I say it's rumor, but it's probably more than rumor at this point, is that there's going to be "quote unquote" some flavors of AI, something or other in this thing.
AI schmai, I don't care.
You'll get, but we'll be going down there soon enough, won't we, Joel? We'll be going down that path.
Yeah, but what really sort of I think if there were to be something that I would like to see, all right, everybody is busy barking up a doggone storm here about the latest series of iPad Pros. Larry, you've got one, right?
And I know where you're going, and I agree with you.
Yeah. Something needs to happen and change with iPad OS. And Chris, you and I were talking about this briefly the other day, and I think we brought the whole point to a head, if you will.
Kind of, right? Yeah.
The thing that really needs to happen with iPad OS, all right, is that right now, I mean, you're looking at an iPad Pro with an M4 in it, all right, and you're looking at an iPad Air with an M2, which is still a really great processor, by the way. Let's face it, even the M1 is still a good processor. All right, it's a really desktop class processor, all right, but the OS that it's driving right now is not a desktop class OS, and it needs more. So, this operating system needs more. Either do us all a favor, get to a true desktop class operating system, or stop it with the Apple Silicon upgrades.
One of two things has to happen here. One is, I don't want it to be Mac OS. I've said this before. I definitely don't think it should be Mac OS. It shouldn't become that. It's not really what it needs to be. What it needs to be, though, is more desktop-like in its metaphor. That's one possible way to approach it.
It doesn't have to be Mac OS.
Or we have to do a much better job. I say Apple has to do a much better job of educating people how they use this, not like using a desktop. Stop trying to use it like you would a desktop. One of those things has to happen, because once you get used to certain paradigms, it actually does work very well. And yes, I've heard the complaints about files. Files is not that bad. The problem was the metaphor for the whole thing was apps were sandboxed, apps were isolated. And so files was brought to kind of create them together. It is not a file manager like file managers are in Windows or in Mac, because those just look at the op.
Maybe it needs to be. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't need to be,
because the whole point was it was a security thing. It was a way of protecting you from having one app step on another, or files step on the other, or if you got virused, it doesn't spread as easily. That's the whole point of this stuff. And so do you want to give that up? Maybe, maybe not. But I think people have forgotten that was the underlying paradigm of this thing. So I don't know that I want iOS 18 to, flatten this thing out and make it more like a traditional desktop OS. But I understand.
iOS no, because that's still my phone.
iOS is different.
OS.
No, I would agree. iPad OS, but I don't necessarily want it to do that. But I want to know, I still think the UI needs to be more, it needs to hide some of those things a little better from users, I think.
It's like they had this presentation with the recent announcements that, they're doing this with that, they're doing that with that. Okay, well, here I am I'll say it, professionally trained photographer, because I actually did take classwork. Did take classwork. 90% of the photography degree at Columbus State I've taken. And I was brought up using Lightroom Classic. That was what I first learned, was the Classic. Right, not the other abomination.
Web version, right.
Which sucks. I'm sorry. It's awful. But I can and did, for an experiment, edit all of my church photographs, which is roughly between 80 to 100 per week.
A week or so, right? A week?
Yeah. It took me longer to do it on the iPad. And it took me longer to export it.
But is that because of the iPad itself, or because you weren't used to doing it that way?
Little of both.
Little both.
Yeah, because because the problem wasn't getting the pictures on them, is getting them where I wanted them.
Right.
Just
moving the files to a place where you could universally get to them with the application.
Yes.
I would almost argue that if you're just a neophyte, basic amateur photographer, and you use Apple Photos and you don't go beyond that app, like in one of the other third-party apps, then iPad OS with its same app is just as good. But I do
agree with Joel, if you're just taking pictures,
like graphic artists love it.
Right. Well, they qualify that.
I also want to point out that if you're using an iPad Air, okay, fine. All right. Okay, fine. But this is the pro level hardware. I think that has really caused a lot of this conversation to take place.
Yeah.
The pro level hardware with the M4, I mean, it's a lot of power there. All right. And
it is.
And you eat, like I said to you earlier, Chris, a day or two ago, you either need to go ahead and make some level of change, whether it's a paradigm change, or if it's an OS change, or if it's an educational change, whatever, don't care. but you need to do something different. You either need to go ahead and make one of those 3 changes, or stop revving the processor on the iPad so much, because you're giving us more and more and more power, and yet no one is really taking advantage of it.
I don't know that. I don't think that. I still don't think that's a bad thing, because here it is. Because even if the OS doesn't change to do a lot of that stuff, the fact is you're running a program. Well, and Joel, you kind of said it with photos. Okay, you're going to render the photos. You're going to render a change to a batch of photos. That extra power actually is pretty helpful, regardless of what the OS did outside.
Sure, it'll go ahead and render through apply all of those presets
those things
and
are
whatnot.
fine.
And photographic changes, and it'll do it a lot quicker. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, if you're going to give me giving me pro level hardware, and you're giving me pro level apps, which we pissed and moaned about for many, many years.
We did, and they gave it to us.
And now they're coming, and now they're coming. Great. Can I have, please, a pro level operating system, or an operating system that matches this whole thing? What is this paradigm supposed to be?
I don't know that they'll do anything, because I think they're focused on AI this time around.
They may not.
While I agree with you guys, I think we're missing one thing. I was looking, before I bought my M4 iPad Pro, I was looking at some videos on YouTube, because there are a lot of people out there that probably know more about this than any of us. Probably. And I saw 2 different videos that brought up the same point when we were talking about the iPad OS. Okay. They all agree that it's not what we really need for that piece of hardware, but they both said the same thing. They can't make it Mac OS for the same reasons that Chris G said, and I agree with that. But they can't change it without creating a whole new OS, and they're never going to do that. So there is nothing in between, and that's why they're stuck, and they're never going to change.
I agree. I don't think it's going to change either, because it does well enough with what they have, and I think that's it goes back to old economics and what they called satisficing behavior. It's good enough.
Good is good enough.
The only thing I hate is that damn dot. I want a pointer.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And they could give you that. McJunkin. Come on, they could.
It works fine for me, but I get what you mean. I get what you're saying.
I can't freaking stand it, and it morphs into it goes from that nasty gray dot into the
into the bar, or into the X,
cool
or the
animation. Good on you, dude. I mean, stop it. All right, stop it. Give me a freaking mouse pointer. Give me a freaking mouse pointer, please.
See, I don't want a mouse pointer, but what I would like, kind of, it still leans into Larry's point. I would like that to at least be, call it changeable, modifiable, editable by me to choose what I wanted, so I could have what I wanted. I don't want a mouse pointer, but you do.
Sure. Give me the option. Absolutely.
So the reason I don't, and I said this before, the reason I don't want them to change it to be a mouse pointer is because this is a finger-friendly OS. You don't need a mouse pointer in a finger-friendly OS. You don't. What you need is
the mouse on a Surface,
not at the OS,
on
not
a
at the OS
Surface
level.
Pro, or on any other kind of Windows machine that also has a touch screen. That mouse,
and it's very awkward. The screen is actually very awkward when you try to use it for touch. So it's not really touch-centric screen in the sense that it should be. You can't click some of those things without something finer.
Well, the thing is, they literally can do what Samsung has done with theirs, in that when you have it docked with a keyboard and mouse, then flip it over into like a DeX-like mode. That's what they could do, but they're not doing that.
Well, I would agree with you, and I would love to see more of a DeX-like mode, but not DeX, because DeX has some limitations that I think are horrible.
Yes.
The fact that it only runs
a better
on one screen,
version of DeX.
Right. You can't run on both your tab screen and your bigger screen when you're using DeX, for example.
I would like DeX it to do something different. I like your option.
But choices is not a bad thing.
I like your option of putting in the choice. All right. I think it would do a lot.
And that's a little thing.
But
that's just
a little thing.
It's a little sprite. All they got to do is make multiple sprites available to you. End of story. But let's get back to the rumors a little bit here. So, and what we've been hearing and not hearing. So we hear a lot of AI stuff, right? Coming at
Siri,
and you hear various things. It's Siri 2.0, whatever they want to call it. That's the other big one that we're hearing a lot of. They're going to put a lot of different AI. We don't know what those different AI things. I think it's all going to be beta. It's all going to. I forget. It'll be like. iOS 18 will come out, but everything else, the AI stuff will still be referred to as beta somehow, because it won't be, you know.
And they're going to be ready.
No, and I think because I think they're still making their deals. They're making their deals with ChatGPT. They're making their deals with Google. I don't think they've settled all that yet. I think that's still all up in the air. I think we're going to see more as the year goes on, though, with that. So it's going to be interesting what rumors.
So
what comes out of this.
This is going to be something that you're going to maybe see an intro to.
Yeah.
A few months after the initial release.
I think we're going to see it. Well, I think we're going to see an announcement about it, and I think we'll see some basic stuff. But my guess is it won't even start to flesh out really till later in the year. That's my guess. But I do think we're going to hear about M4 based Macs at WWDC this year. I think that's
nice
the other rumor. I think we will, because I think it's just logical for them to announce them.
Maybe, but at WWDC hasn't traditionally been a hardware.
No, but they have announced hardware at it before.
They always kind of leak something.
Yeah, especially when it's a minor jump of some kind or an expected jump with nothing else to it. So they'll go to an M4 Mac, but there won't be anything else about it because they're not going to bring out OLED Macs for maybe another year or two. So I think the big thing will be, we'll put an M4 chip into these Macs, and that's what it'll be. You know, okay,
maybe.
You know, well, they're due on a few. The Studio is one they're due on. The Mini is one they're due on. So we'll see what they do. You know.
Yeah, most of what we've heard thus far, in terms of rumors, has been really AI. And
it has more than anything
and what
else.
they're going to do. All right.
You're right.
More than anything else. We've heard some things about buttons and button placement, what the action button will do and what it won't do.
I love to kind of, Joel, I apologize. I'm going to sort of steal from stuff you've said in the past a little bit. I love how we get excited over these little things. Oh, they moved the button to the top now.
Yeah,
this is like we invented cream cheese or something. You know, come on, kids. But that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. A lot of it.
Right.
Kind of, sort of, but you know,
come on, moving icons.
I think the point is. I think the point is, what have you been hearing a lot of in the press lately? If you take iPad OS and you move it to the side, you've heard Siri and
AI.
And AI. Right? You've heard a couple of you've heard camera related rumors as far as how the camera array, the camera bump is going to look going forward.
Oh, yeah. All
right.
Well, that's not iOS 18 stuff from WWDC.
It's not necessarily iOS 18.
16.
It's not necessarily iOS 18, but it is in support of Vision OS specifically.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
All right. So that's why I mention it, only because that's what Vision OS needs, or at least what we've heard Vision OS.
It would be better. It would be better.
Supporting pictures, right? In order to take supporting pictures. So you've got that, and then you've got like the button placement and whatnot, and what the action button may or may not do going forward. Whether there'll be support for multiple actions, or whether there'll be support for multiple presses or whatever. Don't know, but again,
I've been amazed at how excited people have been over that button. It's like, okay.
It's
convenient.
Nice.
But
it's convenient, but honestly, I want it to do more. I really want it to do more because I keep on jamming on that damn.
You have the 15, right? The 15 Pro, right?
I have a 15 Pro Max.
Yeah. Okay. So you have the button, and so changes to that are going to be absolutely of interest to you, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But other than that, I haven't really heard much of anything else. All right. Other than, like I said, Siri and AI and changes to the camera array to support Vision OS, and then the action button. Those three things are the only, unless you guys have heard something else, man. I mean, it's been a little light.
I was looking at it specifically, nothing.
Either they're doing really good at holding most of it to the vest this time, and there's something big and they're just not, because everybody's going to keep saying it's the biggest. Well, if AI is it, I'm just kind of already going meh.
Yeah. The last thing I want is Pennywise popping out of my damn phone. Okay. It's not it.
There you go.
But I'm ching. Anyway, I would like to see more. All right. I would like to see more. AI is not the know all end all, and it cannot be the only thing coming in iOS 18.
No.
And if it is, it's going to be, for me at least, it's going to be a disappointing release.
Well, we're going to be talking more about that and AI plans in a bit here.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
As long as they don't
in
add
about a week or two.
As long as they don't
no. Tonight, I mean, we're going to talk about a little more tonight.
Oh, yeah, more AI stuff. Yeah, but as long as they don't add an AI button to the MacBook, I'm completely fine with whatever they do.
You don't want that Siri AI to match your Copilot AI on your Windows and
don't even start with me.
Match your.
That's when I moved to Linux full time. Right then.
Oh my gosh!
Honest
they
to
do
goodness.
that.
I mean, please. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road. It's too easy.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of the iPad, all right. One of the things that that we've been toying with or talking about this week is that it's not hard enough. It's not hard enough. What are we talking about when we say Apple Nano Glass? Because apparently
you can scratch it.
It's you can scratch it, and you can scratch it at a hardness point far below where it's supposed to be scratchable.
Way below.
Yeah, you were messing with
like a 2 or 3 on the Mohs scale, I think.
Yeah. I thought it was 4. I thought it was at
3.
4.
No, it was a 3, and the regular screen was a 5.
Really?
Right.
So, that is worrisome.
That's almost
Nano texture glass.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
Well, actually, since we were going to talk about this, I went out and did just a little bit of study and trying to find out how does Apple do what's the process for making nano textured glass, and duh, Apple, matte finish is going to scratch. Period. I don't care if it's on your Gorilla Glass or if it's on a plastic cup, it's going to scratch. So really, when you look at how they do this, yeah, it's a sophisticated process, but it's nothing more than if you were to take steel wool, like 8/0 steel wool, and rub it on glass, eventually it would have a matte finish. That's all this is. It's nothing more, but it's done precisely, evenly, and uniformly. But, excuse me again, anything with a matte finish is going to scratch. So we all knew that it would only be a matter of time until Jerry Rig Everything gave this thing his keys, knife tip, and blowtorch tests. And no, it did not go well. Given that this is nothing more than a sophisticated matte finish display, I'd venture a guess that I could scratch it with a hard fingernail to some degree. You can with anything that's matte, or at least put a mark on it. So why would we pay extra for this? And I realize there may be a use case for it, like reflectivity, but I personally prefer glossy finishes. This one's just hard for me to grasp. So, Chris G,
the nano texture on this is supposed to do
one of these higher-end MacBook Pro or iPad Pros. Would you get this?
The
nano texture glass is supposed to be there to do specifically what? Reduce glare, right?
Reflectivity. That's it.
In a high light situation. Right. And so I'll tell you what, I went to the Apple store yesterday to take a look at these things for myself because of that and other things like the OLED issue that some people say they're having, with this device. I wanted to see this stuff for myself in person. I wanted to see the nano texture screen versus the regular screen in person, and spoke with the staff at the store quite a bit about it. And the first thing they said to me literally was, yeah, you can tell that the stuff when you look at the nano texture screen, it's a little more muted, and probably I wouldn't buy it. That's pretty much what they told me. It's in most cases for most users, they wouldn't. And it wasn't about the durability of the screen. I'm not as worried about that. And I'll tell you why, because this isn't a phone. I'm not putting it in my pocket with keys. I probably have it in a case. I probably have it in a folded case. I'm probably not as concerned about it getting scratched, but it's certainly, I'm with you, Larry, in the sense that this is really just a slight advancement on what they already had for I'll call it a nano textured monitor. And a monitor, and that monitor isn't touching things for the most part. It's just you touching it. So it's if anything, so it's not going to be a thing. Now, we'll say this much: it feels really nice when you run your finger along it. It really does.
Yeah.
You can tell. But that's
if you look at it, you'll have to agree.
Really nice, but it mutes everything. And my concern was that there's a slight distortion, just like when you put a cover.
Thank you.
When you
That's
put one of
where
those covers on, and
Thank
I
you.
say exactly
like a
the same
paper
thing.
like or something like
Yes,
that.
and
Yeah.
yes, those help your feel a little more like real paper. That's true. Absolutely true. No question of that. And yes, it does reduce the glare. No question of that. Is it worth the price that you pay in that
clarity?
It's the clarity to me isn't as good. The glossy screen was it was like pulling the filter off. And guys, for those of you who on the show here who haven't heard me say this, but I just had surgery to remove cataracts. I can tell you the difference between cloudy and clear now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this screen, and guess what? To me, it's the difference between cloudy and clear.
See,
I agree.
And this is, they charge how much extra for this? $200 extra to treat the surface of this glass. It's really meant from a touch experience, from a Apple Pencil experience.
You know what?
It's supposed to enhance the feeling.
If I was a graphic designer or an artist, and I was doing a lot, I'm gonna sit out in the park a lot and draw pictures of trees. I might consider something like that for those particular things.
But otherwise, after this article, though, because the squirrels and the acorns are going to go ahead and scratch the daylights out of it.
Yeah, but they won't. It's not as not as up to the risk of being scratched as an iPhone is. However, as long as you don't give it to your kids. Sorry, it's true. But having said that, I think for 95% of the people out there, it ain't it, kids. It just isn't it. I would go with the regular glossy screen. It's gorgeous. That OLED screen is one of the most, and I didn't notice some of the artifacting problem that people have said they had. It looked great to me. I thought it looked great, the glossy screen. So, that's the big thing. I think you're right, Larry. The layer, the texture, the scratching, all the negatives are just not worth it. I just don't see it.
Let me just say this. All right. If you go with the nano texture screen, all right, it's going to get schmutzed up. It's going to get smudged.
You have it a few years. I guarantee you sooner or later it will.
All right. Well, anything you have.
Yeah.
All right. Is going to get any screen that you have on any device, whether it's touch or not. All right. Because even my Mac screens,
you're going to get micro scratches if nothing else.
You're going to get micro scratches. You're going to get dirt and dust and whatnot, and you're going to want to get it off of there. And while a microfiber cloth is very, very nice, it doesn't do the job.
And kids, they give you a special microfiber cloth if you buy the nano texture screen. So, that's part of what you get.
Sort of where I'm going. This is kind of sort of where I'm going with the nano texture glass. Because you will ruin it. You cannot use Windex or standard glass cleaners. If you do, you will ruin it.
You forget just once and you screwed it.
One and done. Keep in mind this. For $200 extra, one and done.
At the end of the day, it's still kind of a coating, and coating scratches. That's what you got to remember.
So and I've noticed this on my Macs, and I've noticed this on my iPhones, and I've noticed this on my Surface machines. Especially any touch device, they get smudged and smushed up, and you want to wipe them off with something. I think the best thing that you can use is get yourself aside from a microfiber cloth. All right, is to go if you need some, because in some cases microfiber will just smear.
It will.
Right? It will just smear, and it doesn't do you any good. If you need to spray anything, go get yourself either some water, or some alcohol, straight isopropyl alcohol, and spritz.
I honestly think there are some use cases for this. Chris G, up where you are near the motor capital of the world. Yeah. I was watching a while back a video of I forget the car manufacturer, but they were showing when the cars are fully done, the assembly line actually moves through an area that is daylight. It's outside. And there are people around each vehicle inspecting whatever they're looking at. Yes. And they have little iPad type things with them. Now that might be a case where
that's a very specific case, but yes, you're right. Right.
But that might be a specific case, but that's about it. Something like that.
They don't even have to have that daylight. Sometimes they just have these incredible lights going on at that part of the line. It's really something. But yes, you're right. I can think of that's why I say 95% of the people they don't need this. But there are a few that for whom this would actually be a useful thing. I mean, I can see why for a few people under a few very specific circumstances, this would be a great thing to have as an option. But man, don't go out there buying it thinking, gee, I'm buying the top of the line, I'm going to put this on. It's like, guys, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to drive yourself nuts.
It's going to drive you bats. And the first time you throw Windex on it, trying to clean the smudges and stuff off, you're screwed.
And let me say, even with alcohol, make sure you're using the better alcohol, not the lower percentage numbers. Yeah. Be careful.
Right. The 90, which would be the 90% and not the 70. So the
and even then, I'd probably use water before I'd use that. As long as your water isn't busted.
I would mix that with water. All right.
You want to dilute it.
I would mix that with water, but just enough. All right. So I would go 3 parts alcohol and 1 part water. All right.
You can use a vinegar base because that's pretty similar.
But then you smell like a salad. You smell like a salad at that point. Right? but you've got a point. You've got a point.
Something natural.
The vinegar may also be a good idea.
I don't know that
white,
for sure.
White vinegar may also be a very good idea.
Maybe.
The point is if you're going to do something like that, stay away from the branded stuff. Go after either straight alcohol, or go after a mixture of alcohol and water, or go with a mixture of white vinegar and water, and then very lightly spray, and then either with a microfiber cloth or with a paper towel, and then follow with a microfiber cloth to get rid of any lint.
I wouldn't even use paper towel on it, to be honest.
But you understand what I'm saying.
What I would recommend,
may not want to get their microfiber cloths wet.
If you get the one with the coating, and you go with the Nano texture coating, what the first thing I recommend you do is read the inserts that came with the device, because they will tell you what they recommend as your cleaning methodology.
Thank you.
And that can change. Opinions change over time. So please read those first. Follow those.
And speaking of video streaming apps, this is one of my favorites for this week. Apple it is, because doggone it, it should be.
It's about
Apple
time.
It is.
That's my thinking. Okay.
It is. It's about time. Apple is now developing, or is rumored to be developing, a TV Plus app for Android. Hot damn.
Yeah, they've had it for Android TV for a while, in some flavors anyway, and they've had it. They have a Windows version that is coming along. It's still got a couple of challenges, but it's coming along. And it's funny. It reminds me back of the old of the original iTunes days. iTunes took off when they finally released it on Windows, and it wasn't just on the Mac. And I think this is, to me, do I think it's going to suddenly take off on Android? No, I don't. But I think in order for these things to be successful, if you want to compete with the other big boys,
and this is where I'm going, because
you got to make it available
to compete
everywhere.
The Apple TV is really trying to compete with not forget Spotify and Pandora, because that's Apple Music, all right?
Right.
But from a video streaming, the Netflixes, the Hulus, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, all of that stuff they've got. I mean, I want to be able to watch my Apple purchased content, because I've got literally hundreds and hundreds of videos that I've collected over the years and purchased and whatnot. And I want to watch them anywhere that I'm at. And if I've got my OnePlus open, or I've got my Samsung Fold, could I please watch it on the nicer screen?
on the iOS device, first of all, Apple Music and Apple Music Classical are available on both Windows and not Windows. They're both available on both Android and iOS.
And Android, yes.
And they're doing fairly well as platforms.
Yes,
they do just fine on those platforms. There's no reason why Apple TV has been a holdout. Now, well, you have to remember, when we talk about Apple TV, there's two. The recommendation up till now has been to use the web interface version of it. It's a very meh kind of solution,
and it's a pain in the butt.
And let me make it clear: there's a difference here. When you do it with the web, you can only use Apple TV Plus shows and run it through it. If you have an Apple library of videos, you can't play them that way. Apple TV as an application on iOS and on Windows lets you play those as well as Apple TV Plus streaming shows, as well as local video content that you've copied to it can act a bit of it as a library, just like iTunes could. So it does all those functions and does them reasonably well compared to some of the alternatives. You can have preferences and arguments one way or the other, but the point is, if you're in that ecosystem for your media and your media consumption, this is a thing that's been missing, that a lot of us have wanted for a long time.
A huge thing that's been missing. I've got I've got a couple of Windows machines, and I've got a newer portable gaming machine that I've got, and it's got a really nice big screen, and it is probably the device that I will want to lean to as opposed to my iPad for watching videos, all right, and playing games if and when I travel in the future. All right. So I was watching video content on it through Apple TV Plus the other day, and through a series of issues that were encountered with other items in the OS and with the device, I had to reset the machine. All right. When the machine comes back, do you realize, and this is what really annoys me, even when there's been no hardware changes to this machine, Apple TV Plus and Apple Music don't necessarily recognize that machine coming back and reinstalling. All right. It's more Apple TV Plus because they've got the prohibition of you can only have 5 computers, all right, with Apple TV watching video content anywhere.
So
right?
let me make this clear.
And you have to authorize them. And
there's a difference. Apple TV Plus has a limitation. Running Apple videos,
it used to be just iTunes, period.
Well,
right.
Apple TV and Apple Music, you have to be very careful because it's the total of devices that you're running the apps on, because that limitation total on all your mobile and your and whatnot devices is what, 9 now, 10 now is your total. You're not allowed more than that many devices to view that content, and so that's music content as well as video content. Anything that's DRM triggered, I should say.
Right, and that is the big issue. They don't want it's a protection for your account and for your paid content. They don't want you to have.
It becomes a challenge when you have a family.
Your account having been compromised, they don't want it all over the internet and everybody's using the stuff for free. Right?
But this is good to have the real app. I'm glad to have the real app finally coming. It's a big deal. I've been wanting it because I move back and forth. You move back and forth. I want that media content library. I still like that content library better than any other one out there for me. And when I talk about music, when I talk about video, for me, it's the best overall mix of things. I like it. I want to use it. Let me use it.
Right. I will tell you that it is since the introduction of the iPod, all right, and iTunes, it has been my platform of choice. I don't want to really be anywhere else, although I will go, to some of the streaming apps, right? Disney and Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, whatnot. I will not. I will use, all right, but the movies and whatnot, it's really only going to be the one platform. I'm not going to buy movies anywhere else other than the Apple TV platform. All right. So,
yep.
So I want to stay there. I've got literally
me too.
Hundreds of movies over the course of about 15 or 20 years. I've got hundreds of movies that I've purchased.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
I get it. I mean, I have a handful that I've purchased back in the a long time ago, back in the iPod video days.
Oh, sure.
Where I actually, I was that guy who would watch movies and videos and stuff on my iPad while I was on the bus. So But
So did I.
And I like to be able to watch those on my Android phone. Like if I'm someplace where the iPad's not convenient to pull out of my bag, which is like on an airplane or something. Yeah.
There are other apps out there like is it Movies Now? I forget what it's called, that lets you sort of bridge the gap between some of the stuff a little bit, but it's not perfect. And it depends on the library and licensing from the different studios, whether they can share that or not. And it's great as far as it goes. But this is a step I'm glad, because to me that now I have more of my stuff available on more places.
Well, plus I can download the content
I'm wanting and where I'm wanting to go. But I would like it all in one place, and I want to be able to watch it on whatever platform I'm on. So adding this to Android is important to me, so that I have it there. Well, having it work the way that I really think it should work. All right. I should be able to have more than 5 computers that I'm allowed to watch that stuff on, because come on, kids, between you, me, and the wall, it should be something else other than just 5. Especially on the, when resetting a Windows machine.
Well, remember
screws
though,
up the count.
5 doesn't include the 5 does not include your iOS and your Android devices.
Apparently, when you reset the machine, it doesn't bring the count back. You've got to deauthorize, and then you have to reauthorize after you come back. It's a step that I did not take, and I forgot to take.
5 does not include your Android devices and does not include your iOS devices.
Anyway,
only computers.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and move us some great points there, guys. Great stuff. Want to make sure that we go ahead and get to our mobile Linux segment, because there's some really big news that has just recently hit that I thought was really kind of shocking and surprising. Apparently T-Mobile is buying US Cellular. So that I think, Chris, I mean, what's up with what's going on there?
I got to admit, I'm not entirely clear. I've seen a couple different variations on this story now. I'm not sure if they're buying the whole of US Cellular or just buying big parts of their network.
What I had seen in the 9 to 5 Mac article that we are citing, it sounds like it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, I
the whole thing.
I thought that at first, and then I saw some other things that made me think maybe that was wrong. Well, but as of right now, I guess we should assume it's probably all until we hear otherwise, and we will correct folks on this show if we hear otherwise. But the big things we seem to think that it's the whole thing, and it's really, quite frankly, it's about. For T-Mobile, T-Mobile does very well in the markets where it is. It doesn't do well everywhere, and I've said this before. I've spoken to this before, that it's a hit or miss proposition depending on where you are. US Cellular helps them build out a lot of their rural areas and their rural networks.
It evens the coverage out.
That's where they're very popular, right? And US Cellular is not an MVNO or anything like that, although it does buy space on other people's towers. So do other people. Other carriers do buy on each other's towers at times too, but US Cellular's big claim to fame is that they're bigger in less urban areas. They're in
the more rural.
It'll help spread,
or not as big city based, if you will.
So it should help T-Mobile's overall US national coverage to do this, to go these places. So it's a big deal, though. It's I forget the dollar figure on it. It was pretty big.
I've got a daughter that lives on a farm. She owns a pretty good sized farm in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. She gets US Cellular, and that's it. Nothing else reaches her.
Exactly. So, and that's how they built their network, and that's worked for them. I mean, they're not Verizon, they're not AT&T, but guess what, kids? They're number 4. They're not. They haven't disappeared either. So. But this is, to me, this is another one of those things that's going to have to clear, I'm sure, a lot of legal hurdles and a lot of regulatory.
There's going to be a lot of folks here.
A lot of due diligence here.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of agencies, especially
but it should give,
the FCC as well as the FTC, that will need to buy in.
Exactly, they'll have to buy into this. But I think for people, if you're a T-Mobile user or even a US Cellular user, this will give you. You may have to change devices to take advantage of the whole network. It depends on what bands. Depends on what bands they all have and all that kind of thing. But overall, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for both of their sets of customers. Here, as I can tell, the way it looks right now,
yes,
it doesn't look like a bad thing for either set. So
no, and this has been around for at least a week. And I honestly think that if there were some huge sticking point that would cause anybody to really be up in arms about it, we would have heard about it right away.
I think so too.
Surfaced. Yep.
All right. It would have surfaced. So the way that this is going right now, this looks like it might actually be a very good thing, or at least there's nothing very concerning going on with this potential deal.
No.
So hopefully this will get approval. I think it would be a really, really good way for T-Mobile to really sort of solidify their coverage. Or more solidify their coverage, or better
I think so.
Provide for their customer base. Because I know that going out into the middle of nowhere is, especially in Illinois, you get away from Chicago and forget it, kids. All right, 20 to 30 miles west of where I am near Aurora, you're out in the boonies, and it's very easy to
and I'm in a
zone.
similar situation. As I've said, I'm off of I'm
you are.
I can almost spit to the Canadian border from where I am, and the reality is, if I go north of here, it goes to the boonies, very, very quickly. But if I go west of here, just a couple minutes west, 5 minutes west in the car, I have full blown T-Mo signal. But where I'm at, just 5 miles west or east of that, it totally sucks. It's awful.
I got it.
So, I think it's a big thing. Larry, have you heard? So has she told you anything about her opinion on this potentially happening? I mean, does she think this is a good thing for her coverage?
I have not talked to her.
You haven't had that conversation?
No, but I will say in reference to what you just said, when you move from I don't care what carrier you're with.
True.
It's like they have a wall. It's not
they
like they fade in and out.
No.
You just have 5 bars and all of a sudden you have nothing.
You've got none.
You can
go from 0 to 0 real quick.
I remember years ago, I used to go to friends who were northern. I'm in Michigan, for folks who don't know, and I live kind of near the base of the thumb, north of the Detroit metro area. And when I go north of here, you get into boonies very quickly. But if you go north and you're staying near the coast, near the rivers and near the lakes, what used to happen is my cell signal would often try to flip over to Canadian and back because the signals were not well regulated. Nowadays, that doesn't happen. They've certainly got you said, Larry, it's much more of a wall than it used to be. But it used to be, they just kind of faded, and you would whoever had the strongest thing, you'd pick up their signal.
And so you'd be roaming.
You'd be roaming, and you'd be paying international fees when you didn't mean to be. Yeah. So they had to put special provisions for people who were in those kinds of areas and say, okay, we will reverse those charges because they know it wasn't intentional, and they could see geographically that's not where you were. So they can tell where you were. They can
but you had to call and get that.
You had to call and get that back in the day. So so I think it's good that T-Mo is going to have better coverage. I think it's great that US Cellular is going to have better coverage. Though I think that, again, I don't see any negative to that for any of the customers. So
the other thing from a business perspective, a little over 3 years ago, when the current T-Mo CEO took over, he stood up on national television and said, "We intend to be the best wireless carrier on the planet for our customers, something the other companies don't do." And I think he's on a mission to do that. I mean, he really is.
I think he's made some mistakes, but yes.
We all make mistakes, but he's done a good job.
He has done an absolutely excellent job. My family, and I've got 7 lines on this account, is plus a couple of watches. We're on Verizon, all right, and the charges for our 7 lines have been absolutely, it's been absolutely nuts, and I'm currently at war with them. All right.
Oh, Verizon?
Lower my bill. All right. Or I'm taking my 7 lines and my watches, and I'm going to play with somebody else. And it may as well be, guess what, kids, Mint, because at $250 a year, I can get decent 5G
Yeah,
coverage.
but not
Paying
good.
that much,
But
paying more than that a
but not good
month.
voicemail. Their voicemail handling is terrible. But
Well, their
that's another.
voicemail handling may be terrible, but that's not where most of
No.
the use is. Most of the use is going to
Sure.
be in mobile data and phone calls.
But I've said T-Mo is where I would go if I were to shift off to where I'm at
And
right
Mint
now.
is now
I've been
was
very
recently
happy
purchased.
also.
Yeah.
Was recently purchased by T-Mobile, and they ran on the T-Mobile network anyway.
But I will say this much: you got to be careful with this because T-Mo didn't handle the Sprint acquisition very well. Those Sprint customers were kind of mishandled.
They
And,
were, but that was a special
yeah.
circumstance.
But it was a lot of users, and a lot of users.
And that
got
was their
kinda
first
booted.
rodeo in acquisitions.
I
too.
think they had to learn a lot of.
Yes.
I think they learned a lot.
They
from
learned
that,
a lot of lessons.
But we got to be careful. You know, it's not always perfect when we jump ship on those things.
Agree. But our costs are crazy. It's absolutely.
I know.
nuts.
I
And it's
agree.
getting to the point, I'm paying almost $600 a month. All
For
right.
how many lines?
7. All right.
Yeah, I'm not on Verizon. I have more lines than that, and I pay maybe half of that.
Yeah. See, and that's not right. Verizon will charge you if you can go paperless and they will not provide you with a discount. You must go paperless and you must go auto pay. And I don't like and I have a very huge problem with
Yeah,
the way that
I do have
auto
I have auto pay, but yes,
All right,
it's not
with
a huge
Verizon,
change.
let's say your date is the 15th of the month. All right. And I'm going to move us to the next story here in just a second. But if you're on your due date, they will go ahead. That's when your payment has posted because they've already taken it by that point. They'll take it 3 to 4 days earlier. All right. So if your due date is the 15th of the month, they're going to take your payment on the 12th or 13th. It'll clear your bank on the 12th or the 13th and then post to the account by the due date. I don't know any other company anywhere
Pulls it early?
any other industry. Even the freaking credit cards don't do that, man.
I can tell you a couple that do, but
Right,
I hate that behavior.
Goodness.
But yes,
I mean,
I can tell you some that do.
and then they go ahead and they charge you in arrears. All right, they charge you in arrears. You're not paying for this month's service. You're paying for last month's service. So when I called them, went to war, and kind of sort of won. All right, not only did I have to go auto pay, which I was on, but then took myself off of because I couldn't afford to have it hit 4 days early. All right. Still was paperless. They upped my bill $70 a month because I took it off of auto pay. $70. And you don't get that discount. You don't get that discount unless you're both paperless and auto pay. And they charge you $70 a month if you don't have that combination. That's almost criminal. All right. So, don't even get me started. Don't laugh because I'm telling you right now, buddy. You know. All right. But you know what is interesting, and I'm going to move us to our next story at this point. You guys have heard of TikTok, right?
More than we want to.
More than we want to.
Yeah, but apparently ByteDance and TikTok, there's been a federal bill that's been passed that says that ByteDance must divest of TikTok if they here in the US if they want to continue operating. All right. Apparently they are in the process of developing a US only algorithm as either a negotiating point or as an attempt to be compliant with the legislation. They've got a number of different issues with this particular legislation and being compliant with all of the other stuff. So long story short, TikTok is developing this US only algorithm to help segment things here in the US and say that they are dealing with only US things and only things in the US. Apparently, according to TikTok, the qualified, and this is a quote, the qualified divestiture demanded by the act, meaning the law that was passed, to allow TikTok to continue operating in the United States is simply not possible. It's not possible commercially. not possible technologically, not legally, and certainly not in the 270 days that they have been given to respond and reply and be compliant with the act. So in order to get all of the Chinese and all of the foreign elements out of it, they're developing this US only algorithm to say, hey, you're not going to get involved with the rest of the world. We're keeping all of that other stuff for all of them. You get your own things, and there we're segmenting.
What do they think is actually going to happen? Because this is a law that was passed now, and that's not compliant with the law. So what do they? I mean, I understand we can argue whether the law was a thing to do or not, but the point I'm getting at is what they're doing doesn't really address the law that was written. So
it does.
So now what happens?
It does not, and I may have missed it, but I didn't see what they're hoping for to get out of this in this.
I mean, do they actually think it'll accomplish anything? I mean, maybe they're just hoping to change hearts. I don't know. Minds and hearts. I'm get a new law passed or something.
I'm hoping what they're going to hope. What I think their hope is, all right, and I think what they're hoping for is that this will be enough to get the U.S. government to not shut them down. All right.
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
Well, I would think that would be their hope too. I mean, I would think that's what they're hoping. People, otherwise, why bother at this point? Why not say, we can't do anything. We're done. Otherwise, why not? But yeah, it doesn't change the way the law is written. It doesn't change unless it gets rescinded or removed or rewritten. That takes a lot to get that to happen. It takes a lot of excitement. Gosh knows we had to have a lot of frenzy before this law was passed in the first place. And so now they're going to have a lot of frenzy to undo it, or some sort of upswell of support for them in order to do that. And I don't know that this is enough to do that.
Well, I think the concern here is that since the Chinese government has got their fingers in not only how the company operates, and they do, but also in the code and the way that content is pushed to end users. All right, what they're seeing and how they're seeing it. And
but unless they have this, unless the U.S. government has visibility into how their algorithm is working in all circumstances, that ain't going to be enough. Well, just saying you're changing it isn't enough.
All right, but in 2020, the Chinese government added content recommendation algorithms to its export control list, requiring a divestiture of sale of TikTok's algorithm to go through the administrative licensing procedures. So the long and the short of it, the Chinese government has got their hooks into this company.
I agree.
This is what is really at least our government here in the States.
I think so.
It's too much. It's too much involvement.
By the way, I think everybody needs to understand we're not making a value judgment on whether was the right thing to do or not. We're just trying to state what has happened and what we think the reactions to it might be. That's kind of where we're going with this. Yes. Potential, right?
Yeah, and I know in the political area, the big fear with TikTok is it affecting our elections.
Absolutely, absolutely true.
And that's why there's any concern at all.
Well, Facebook, TikTok, all of them have had their accusations over the years, right?
Social media is something that every smartphone and computer user is into. All right.
Unfortunately,
there's going to be, and it's not going to stop, some level of influence from these platforms into the population. All right. And they're going to help quote unquote help, and you see the bunny ears here, help these people develop an opinion. Thank you. Develop a opinion on whether or not they're going to vote for candidate A or candidate B or candidate C or whatever. All right, they're going to try to influence that user's candidate of choice.
I'm voting for Grumpy Cat this year. By the way,
there you go.
And sadly, they're going to be effective when they do that, Chris. That's the problem.
They are.
To an extent, they are. To an extent, they are, and they will be. And I don't know or think that there's anything that we can do.
I don't think you can avoid it.
All right. No. No, because people are going to see, they're going to see content wherever it is that they go to get content. They're going to see it there, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, X, formerly called Twitter.
Well,
whether it's Threads,
The only
which
thing
is the
you can
Facebook
do-
version of Twitter. All right. Whether it's Trump's version of Twitter, whether it's whatever else. All right.
whoever's, yeah, it doesn't matter.
It does not
you
matter.
know,
They're going to see content
tell
that's
you
going
what.
to influence their opinion.
Here's what we can do. Here's the only thing we can do that I can think of. And
Hibernate in a cave?
Chris, you and I have a friend.
Right.
Who,
Shut up. We have
who
a friend.
I know it's really scary. has a couple of kids now in their early 20s, and what she has tried to do is make sure that they understand how to perform critical thinking, which we don't teach in schools anymore, by the way.
No.
Kids. We pulled those kinds of things out of schools a long time ago. She tries to teach them how to analyze what they're seeing, not tell them, this is my opinion, you should believe in my opinion. She tries to teach them, you're going to get presented with all these things. And you need to learn how to read into that. And you're going to have to do some judgment in this.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's the best you can hope for. And we need to do that with people around us, with our loved ones.
Isn't that what
that's what we're here for, in part.
Four cranky old geeks, four cranky old geeks sitting in lawn chairs.
The danger is, you know, like you said, we're four cranky old geeks. Nobody really wants, you know, we could say nobody wants to hear what we have to say on that kind of subject because we're just the old guys. What do we know? But I think if you gently kind of, you know, show them, here's how you critically think. Here's two sets of opinions. You know, what do you think is going on here? You know, you try to teach them how to do this. Teach them to fish. You know, don't give them a fish. Teach them how to fish.
Isn't that the common sense thing that should have been happening and we should be doing and we should be expecting from everyone?
But we forgot how to do. We forgot how to teach the next generation how to do that. That's what's happened.
We forgot. I think we
didn't do it. We just didn't
do it.
I think we just stopped. We stopped because it's too much. It's quote unquote.
It's a lot of work.
It's too much work.
It's more than that 30-second TikTok. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is we're worried about
TLDR, right? Too long didn't read, too long didn't do, right?
Yeah.
We're worried about social networks, though. Well, hey, that's a good segue to the next topic.
If you're
we really should
about your kids getting polluted and corrupted because they're watching TikTok or YouTube or whatever it is.
Well,
all I can say is, you know what?
And
block it or take it away from them or whatever it is that you can do.
To Joel's point, this is actually going to kind of get worse, and that leads into our next topic, doesn't it, Chris?
It certainly does.
Yes, because AI is going to take more and more of this, and either stick it in front of you or take it away from you or whatever. And most consumers, apparently, with AI being the big thing coming up, apparently. Most consumers couldn't care less about AI. So
that's where I'm going with this. There was a survey, it comes from futurism.com. Most people couldn't give a crap about using AI. The survey finds many of them never even heard of ChatGPT. You ask my dad what ChatGPT is, he's gonna be like, huh? You know, I mean, it's literally it. You ask him what Copilot is, he's probably going to be like, oh, that's that crap I have to turn off on Windows.
But, it's going to make it scarier because this stuff is going to be built into things and they're not going to realize that it's doing it to them.
Yep.
And it's feeding them.
Yep. They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to get the new IntelliPhone, which we don't know what it is yet.
I had hoped we wouldn't be going down that road, but no.
Yeah. Because that was another story
that
this
is
week.
The path of least resistance, and they'll just take it.
Right.
See, and that's what I'm worried about.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Here's now, I will say this: at least with Copilot, ChatGPT, and the other things that are coming out there, is you can turn them off. All right, or you don't even have to use them in the case of ChatGPT. All right, or Gemini for that matter. Okay. But what happens when you buy a device and you can't turn it off? You buy something like, what was that one that came out?
You're not talking about those little
the rabbit thing. The rabbit.
You are okay.
Yeah. That you can't turn it off because that's its purpose. is to give
Sadly.
you AI, and it doesn't working good either. So I mean, AI is not really ready. Well,
No.
the thing
No,
is,
it's not ready for prime time.
even when it is ready, though, it ain't ready. We're not ready.
We're not
Check
ready.
the chat,
That's the better
guys.
phrase. That's the better phrase.
Bye.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is oh no. Anyway, but yeah, that's what we say on AI is oh no when it comes, but
Yeah, that's pretty much it too. And again, all we can do is try to give ourselves, give our kids, give our relatives, our loved ones, try to educate them as best we can with the coping tools. To try to read this stuff, to try to understand this stuff, to try to do some critical thinking. It won't be 100% perfect, but it'll be better than doing nothing. Take everything you see on the internet with a grain of salt, kids. In the meantime, that's what I tell you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of taking it with a grain of salt, yeah. Dan, and this one really kind of is sad for me. Apparently, Samsung is sunsetting their Tizen Watch OS, and they are ending support for all of those powered watches, which is really just kind of sad. I will tell you, I still have my original Galaxy Watch, and I still wear it quite a bit, actually. It's in the regular circulation of watches. It fits well. It looks good. That case is wonderful. It does a decent job keeping time and doing the things. And to be honest, of all of the Tizen watches, and there was the original Galaxy Watch, there was a Galaxy Watch 2 series, the Galaxy Watch 3 series, and in the 4 series they went to Android Wear the Android based Wear OS.
Wear OS. I knew you were getting there.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. But the long and the short of it is, I believe that the original Galaxy Watch was actually the best implementation of that platform, and it is a fabulous watch. All right, it is an absolutely fabulous watch. And the fact that they're ending support for it is kind of disappointing, which basically means you got what you got. It runs as long as it runs, and once it goes, kids, that's it.
But they haven't been putting it in new devices for a while now.
Oh,
right?
no, they haven't. It's been the Galaxy Watch 3 series and it's been about 4 or so years at least.
Okay.
All right.
So,
if not more.
So I guess I can understand why they're sunsetting it, but it's still sad.
It is sad.
It's sad, but here's the good thing about Tizen OS is it's open source, folks. So somebody else could take it and run with it. Is that going to happen?
I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not from anybody that you would want to go ahead and actually get from.
Maybe Wise or somebody crazy like that, but
I don't know. But it's sad if you've got an early Galaxy series, anything below a Galaxy Watch 4 or 4 Classic, you're going to be out of luck here, kids. I am one of those that are affected, but I guess I'll get over it.
Well, do you use your older ones that much, or do you stay mostly with your newer ones now?
They're in the rotation. Let me just say that they're in the rotation. All right.
Got it. I
am concentrating and stay with mostly 3 watches. The Apple Watch Ultra 2, the Tag Heuer E4, and then the OnePlus Watch 2. All right.
Okay.
Those are the ones that I really sort of give preference to, and I'll bounce in every now and again. I'll bounce in the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. Every now and again, I will bounce in the Google Pixel Watch that I have, and every now and again, I will bounce in the TicWatch Pro 5. All right, but those are really the 3 that I stick with the most.
Sounds like me and my foldables rotation.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a good thing. So I want to go ahead though, and I want to move us to our Windows segment, and we will do that right after this brief message. Hi, this is Christopher Spera with iTechGear.org, and I'm here to tell you that iTechGear.org and the iTechGear Weekly are on Patreon. Patreon is a platform for creators, allowing them to express their creative side in an organized, marketable fashion and earn a living or create a really cool kind of side hustle. You can create a community around your hobby of choice. You can gain followers. You can get members and supporters all along the way. You can create subscription products that for a pledged amount every month, you'll provide to your members and followers. Setup is easy. Prices are reasonable, and you can have your pledges auto-deposited into an account of your choice every month. With iTechGear.org, our initial offering is a monthly newsletter for just $3 a month. This is our initial offering, and we'll have other tiers and other products and other offers up in the coming months. Become a patron of our site. Grow with us, and we'll provide you with the tech understanding that you're missing right now. Join us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. That's www.patreon.com/iTechGear. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 92. It's not hard enough. Apple's Nano Glass. And I want to go ahead, as I said earlier, I want to move us to our Windows segment. And this is something that happens a lot with chips and foundries nowadays. There are differences between the Snapdragon X Plus and the Snapdragon X Elite. And Chris, what are we really looking at when we talk about the differences between those two chips?
Let's step back a second first. Let's make it clear that to folks that may not know, the Snapdragon X series chips is what's coming out in the new Windows ARM-based computers. First with Windows Surface Pro and Surface Laptop lines.
Those wonderful Copilot PCs.
And, well, those Copilot PCs, and then other vendors are going to be releasing those similar devices very soon. You know, a number of folks, myself included, feel that Windows ARM is the way we're going with Windows as opposed to Intel-based chips. Yeah. So this is the first kind of really big foray into this. They've done things before using their phone chips. So the Snapdragon X series is kind of an important step for them, and the Elite is primarily where they're going. The Plus, as you've kind of sort of pointed out already, is sort of a binned version where they don't have quite as many cores. So for example, the Elite is a 12-core device. The Plus is a 10-core device.
Right.
And the Elite
let's be specific about this. They've got those two different product lines.
They do.
Everything is built to the Elite spec. All right. There's 100% test, especially with microprocessors coming out of manufacturing. They'll go ahead, they'll drop them in a wonderful little tester, and then they will figure out exactly how many cores they have. Those that hit 12 get the actual X Elite product mark. Those that are less than 12 or at a minimum 10 will go the X Plus route.
So
all right.
The 10 core version is 3.4 gigahertz in its processing speed. The 12 core is 3.8 gigahertz in its core processing speed. There are some other variations. The Plus variant on this chip has a graphic performance up to, it looks like 3.8 teraflops. The Elite actually has 3 variations depending on what's in. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know what's in the different Surface Pro models that are coming out. I don't know which variant on the GPU that they're using, but they have one that the top end one does 4.6 teraflops. in terms of its instruction set.
Yeah.
And they both have basically the same NPU. They both are
They do.
basically running the same NPU, 45
They do.
tops. So they're doing that's trillions of operations per second.
Yep.
So they're both doing the same NPU thing. So the core features of it, I think, for the most part, you're going to be good no matter which way you go with this stuff.
This is a really decent chip. All right.
Yeah,
From an ARM perspective, this is a really, really decent chip in terms of processing power. All right. Ability to push AI as well, or at least what we're calling AI, because it's not true AI. And I'm going to say that over and over and over again until it is. All right.
Just call it processor dedicated toward those kind of functions going forward. How's that?
Yeah. That's perfect. All right. So it's the real thing here, the battery saving, the power usage and consumption is really very, very good with these. You're going to get a lot of decent battery life out of the mobile device, whether computer, tablet, whatever you're going to be using with these particular processors. It's going to be fabulous. And it's going to go a long way. And it will also run not only native ARM apps, but it will, in an emulation mode, run the Intel based apps.
And when you're running
a slight performance hit.
And when you're running native ARM apps, and when you're running the OS, and you're running the high-end Elite chip anyway, you are getting performance that is a little better than the current MacBook Air. The current M3 at MacBook Air that's out right now. You're a little better than that. So
yes,
it's a good place to be. It's a good place for them to land. And by the way, they also both all their chips are supporting Wi-Fi 7 standards now. So that's probably another important thing for some folks.
So you're going to get it offers peak rates up to 40 gigabits.
It does
when using the 6 gigahertz band, which is pretty doggone quick. So you really can't complain. All right.
No. So these things are coming. They're coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming real soon now.
So here it is. It is coming. All right. And speaking of AI, Joel, can you do us a favor? There's a new feature out in Windows 11. All right. And it's an AI. It's called Windows Recall.
Oh, goody.
All right. What is Windows Recall, Joel?
Well, when I read this, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the Windows Recall is a feature that takes snapshots of your screen every few seconds and uses on-device AI to analyze and triage that content. This enables the ability to semantically search for anything you've ever done on your computer using natural language, giving Windows a photographic memory and enabling the user to search for things just by describing it. Anybody else creeped out by this? Because I sure as hell am.
Well, and not only that, I mean, all right, so it takes screenshots every few seconds. Where is it going to store that stuff?
Thank you.
All right, number one. All right. Is it going to gunk up my hard drive? Because they can't store it all in RAM. So they're going to have to and they're not going to just take this, do a scrape off of it, and then toss the screenshot before they save it to
you're going to have a bunch of metadata related to the AI analysis.
Yes. All right. And where are they going to store that? So where are they going to store the screenshots? Because they're not going to store them all in memory. They're going to write them to disk. Where are they going to go
the cloud
and store that cloud data database? Where are they going to put that data? That they skim off of that. All right. If they're only throwing a 128 gigabyte or a 256 gigabyte SSD into this machine that you're going to be using, where are they going to put all this?
Well,
stuff?
let me add that. There's this whole, we're going to keep it. We're going to be able to recall back to whenever, but they never tell you what's that window look like. Are you going to recall back 6 months? Are you going to recall back a year? Are you going to recall back a week? What does that look like? Are you going to try to quote unquote do it forever? So what are you going to do? Send it into you can't do it forever. You're just going to run out. So what are you going to do? Send it in the cloud and let it be stored on Azure, where I'm going to pay for storage up there? How does that going to work? There's no conversation about how that's going to work. No.
And I don't have any concerns about all of my metadata, everything that I've been doing on my computer being stored in the cloud.
What about the creepy guy down the street whose life is sitting in front of porn sites? Are they tracking all his crap too? I mean, it sounds creepy, but it's creepy no matter how you look at it. It just really is.
Fortunately,
yes.
some of us may not even have a PC that can run this silly thing.
True.
It requires it says Copilot Plus is it's part of that.
Mhm.
It requires an NPU with 40 plus tops, 16 gigabyte of RAM, 256 gig of storage, and 8 logical processors.
So
that
most
matches the new one.
PCs that are out there that are running Windows 11, all right, it must be a Copilot Plus compatible or branded PC. So it's got to have at least the NPU with the 40 plus tops. It's got to have at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's got to have at least 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 local processors. As you said, that's all got to be in place and all got to be in that.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of Windows 11 machines that are out there that should be able to run not only Windows 11, but should be able to run Windows 12 or whatever the quote unquote next big thing from Windows is, whatever that next version is. All right. And then they should be able to,
and by the way,
yeah,
my two-year-old laptop has a Intel Gaussian and Neural accelerator. So there's my NPU.
Well, there's an NPU there, but is it powerful enough to be Copilot Plus compatible?
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't know.
Those
every
are the specs,
every ARM processor has an NPU.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's every Apple Silicon based processor, every ARM based like the Snapdragon X Elite that we just talked about,
and the Windows Surface Pro 9
Plus.
before that,
or the Windows
Surface Pro X before that.
Right.
They all have one.
They all have one. They may not have the ability to hit 40 plus tops, but
true.
All right. But it's there. All right. So this is going to take a machine with some, even though those machines, including the Surface Pro 9 5G that you and I both have, Chris.
We do. And actually, that's what I'm talking on right now.
We'll be able to go ahead and actually run the next, quote unquote, the next version of Windows, again, whatever that is, right? But it's not going to run this. All right. No. It won't run Copilot Plus, which from my perspective, I'm just fine with. But
I am too.
I
am too. I don't, and again, we still don't have, there's a lot of questions we don't have answers to yet. Like I said, where is this data going to go when it's saved? Where's it going to go?
How long is it going to be maintained? Where is it going to be stored locally?
Am I giving you rights to analyze it?
Where's it going to be stored universally? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are they going to put it? Because at some point, it's going to move off. Some of this data will move off device. All right.
Well, and again,
not necessarily all of it, but some of it.
Is that another ploy to get me to buy more disk space from them? Just like their backup feature is a ploy to get me to buy more disk space from them. Is that part of this? Trying to drag me toward the services side of things? Maybe. Don't know. We'll learn more about it.
I don't know.
But we'll learn more about it.
Right now, it's only exclusive to the new Copilot PCs that they're bringing out. So.
Right. Or other vendors are bringing out. There's a couple other vendors working on Copilot.
There are.
PCs.
You will need to going forward, you'll need to have a Copilot Plus compatible machine to get this stuff, number one. And number two, any Windows machine from whatever the next version of Windows is going to be, all right, whether that's going to be a 11,
whatever it is,
or a 12 or Windows 12 or whatever it is that they're going to call it, they will also have to be, those versions of Windows will run this stuff and it will display this stuff when they are on a piece of hardware that has those level of specs. Although the 9.5G, the Yoga Book 9s, and any Windows 11 compatible computer that's out there now should be able to run the next version of Windows. It just won't do this.
Yeah, right. I think that this was listed as one of the features of the new Copilot PCs. It wasn't listed so much as a Windows 11 feature as it was a Copilot PC feature. Right. So that's what I would expect to see it. And keep in mind, again, we've talked about the Microsoft Surface devices that are coming out with running it, but there are other vendors working on it. AMD is working on a Copilot PC Plus kind of compatible ARM chip. There's other projects out there that are going to move.
I agree
that forward so there'll be more coming, but you're going to look for that. Copilot PC is just a branding, it's a set of specs and minimums that they want you to meet to get the branding.
To run their version of what they call AI.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen this on PCs before where they have, in order to call it a certain thing, and they put that sticker on your PC that says, hey, it's one of these. Right. And we're going to see it again, but that's all this is. So it's coming for these newer PCs. I don't want it. I don't think I need it. I don't want it. I'm hoping it's disableable once it comes up.
Mm-hmm. The thing that bothers me is the things that we've already mentioned. All right.
We have.
Where's the data going to be stored? How accessible is that going to be to me and other folks? Who besides me is going to have access to that? Will it be anonymized, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, let's broaden that a little bit too. It's not just this particular feature. It's all of these new AI features. A lot of us want to just disable half this crap. We don't want Copilot invading our entire lives. I might want the new PC. I want the new PC. I want an ARM-based PC. I have a lot of reasons for wanting an ARM-based PC.
Absolutely.
They're very efficient. You get your 5G in it. Your world is good. There's a lot of things like that.
Not only that, but
I don't want these features. I don't want these other features.
Right. So, and that's partially going to be a product of age for us.
True.
Right? It's also partially because we're computer savvy enough to know, hey, kids, we don't know where this stuff is going to be stored, where the byproducts of this are going to be stored. Who's going to have access to it? Will it be anonymized? And how easily is it going to be?
Well,
but it gets down to understand.
Actually, we do know that. We do know that the data from this, according to the article, in many other articles, is that it's only being stored only on your local machine. On the other hand of that is how much disk space is that going to take up?
Yeah, that's
what I want to know.
All right, but at the end of the day, with all of this, with any of this stuff, we just need to know. We need to know which questions to ask, right? And that's the challenge, because all this stuff comes out and it's coming at us from the side. Sometimes it doesn't come straight at us. So we have to go. Wait a minute, this is going to do what? How is this going to work? How are you going to do this? We got to ask the questions.
See, in this case, it's going to have to be disableable. It's going to have to be.
I think so too.
Only because on a 256 gigabyte hard drive or SSD, you're going to run out of space very quickly while this thing runs in the background doing all the things.
Let me give you another layer. Let me give you another layer to this. I mean, if they eventually want to sell these into call it government institutions or big business purchase sales, there's no way they're going to accept this kind of stuff going on a PC in those environments. They're the IT security departments, those departments are going to say, not going to have it.
No,
we're not buying them. So in order to get them to move forward, they're going to have to make some ability to turn that off. Now, maybe that'll be like if you buy Windows 11 Enterprise, it doesn't have this, or something goofy
or
like
it's going to have the switch to allow you to go ahead and turn it on or off, or configure in some way that it's not going to do what you don't
lock it using a group policy, whatever it might be. The point is, there has to be a way to turn this stuff off,
or limit, or at least limit, if not turn off. All right, there has to be a way of controlling what this stuff, how this stuff behaves, and what it stores, where it stores, and how much space it takes.
But we don't know what that looks like.
256 gigabytes, kids.
But we don't know what that looks like yet.
Your drive is going to fill up, real quick.
I agree. And again, we'll learn what it is. Right now we don't really know what we're looking at with that yet.
It's new, but even still. Okay,
there you go.
So I want to move us to our tip of the week segment. And for those that don't know, iTechGear was founded with the intent of making technology easy for everyone to understand and use, even this new AI crap. All right. This team specifically has dedicated their writing careers to that purpose. And every week, iTechGear and the iTechGear Weekly will feature a new computing tip authored or presented by one of our experienced editors. You have questions, concerns, comments, ideas, please send them all to tips@itechgear.org. And if we use your entry, we'll give you your 15 minutes of fame without a doubt. This week, speaking of Windows Update and everything that goes on a drive, there are lots of times when you may be running out of space, and in order to claim that space back, in order to get it back, you have to run an app that's called Disk Cleanup. So, and Windows Update specifically will go ahead and store updates even after it's installed them on your to your machine. It will keep the local install files in case you've got to reinstall something, or in case something happens and you need to do some sort of tweakage in order to get the functionality back, or simply because it's a really, really bad custodian of space and won't give it up after it brings it down. So in order to go ahead and get this space back, you're going to need to run an app called Disk Cleanup, DISK Cleanup. All right. Hit the start button, type that into the panel that comes up, the start panel that comes up, and let the app run. There's going to be a button near the bottom left corner of the dialog box that comes up that says clean up my system files, and it's going to have that wonderful Michigan U of M styled blue and gold sort of shield icon. Click that. All right. One of the after the app sort of goes away and then comes back again, you're going to see the very first checkbox in a list of checkboxes is called Windows Update Cleanup, and it's probably going to be a pretty hefty amount of space that's being used on your drive. Make sure you click that checkbox, go through the list to select any others that may be holding content or may be taking up disk space. Check those. It'll keep a total amount of disk space that you'll gain back tally there. And when you're all said and done, click the OK button. What'll happen is it will go through and it will actually erase all of that content out of all of those folders, getting rid of that wasted space and giving you back some area, some space that you can use to actually store videos or other content or pictures or other content, or giving you the ability to have that space back to you. And hopefully, if for nothing else, to make the OS and the machine run all that much better. All right. Make sure you do this probably about once every quarter or once every 6 months, just to go ahead and make sure you get that space back. You're going to want it back.
And let me add, Chris, these are available not only whether you have an Intel or an ARM-based Windows box.
That is true. This is a Windows. This is a Windows feature.
It works across the board. Yep.
And not necessarily dedicated to any one given processor.
We kind of have to do that nowadays since there are multiples coming out on us.
Right. But this particular feature actually dates back to the Windows XP days. All right. The way Windows Update works and how it stores data hasn't changed much since Windows XP. All right. Regardless of operating system version, regardless of hardware platform, Intel or ARM, this is going to work this way. So again, just very quickly, click Start, type the words Disk Cleanup, run the application when it comes up, and then go ahead and click the Clean Up System Files with the Admin Shield on it button in the lower left-hand corner of the dialog box. And then after that, you're going to see some other options that are available to you, including Windows Update Cleanup. Check that box. Check any others that you would want to go ahead and get rid of.
Yep.
And then click the OK button. Windows will then run through, delete those things, giving you all of that tallied space back. This is a great way of cleaning up your machine and getting back some unused or unnecessarily used space. So there you go. And this will be on iTechGear.org ASAP. All right. I want to go ahead and move. I'm sorry?
I said E-I-E-I-O.
E-I-E-I-O. And I want to go ahead and move us to our pick of the week segment. And before we get there, we just want to take a moment to remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually used, and that we like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our listeners. These aren't paid advertisements or anything that we have any kind of an affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy over at iTechGear.org indicates and states implicitly that we have to go ahead and tell you about that up front. These are just sincerely things that we believe in and that we want to bring them to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we like you.
There you go. And this week, kids, I have a really cool application. And this is a Windows-based application. It's not universal, unfortunately. There isn't a Mac version that's available for this. If you are using a Windows machine, and it doesn't matter if it's Intel or ARM, it will work on both. And you are a Microsoft Office or Microsoft Office 365 user, it will work with both. And you have a lot of Windows open or files, Office compatible files open in whether it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or whatever. You'll notice that when you cycle through all of those, when you alt tab through all of those, you're going to get all of those, and all of those windows are going to be all up in your face all the time, waiting for you to get to them. The application here is called Office Tab Enterprise. And what it does is it groups all of your open Office files into a tabbed interface inside of the application that runs that file. So if you've got 5 Word files open, each one of those will be available and open to you in a one single Word window, but with five different tabs representing the 5 different documents that you have open. Same thing with Excel, PowerPoint. The app comes in a couple of different flavors. You get either Office Tab or Office Tab Enterprise. Office Tab works with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint and is $39, so $40, right? Office Tab Enterprise works with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, Access, Visio, as well as Project. All right. And it is $49, so $50. All right. And this is a one-time purpose. It's not a purchase. It's not a subscription. And it is, it allows, you can run this on just about any computer that you use. All right. So for $50 to get the entire Office suite, including Visio and Project, this is not a bad little deal. If you use this at work, like I use this at work, use Office, you're going to want this because you're going to have, it's going to make things a lot easier, especially if you have to copy things, say from in Excel, from workbook to workbook, or from Word, from document to document. You can set up 2 tabs in a single Word window, all right, and be able to move them back and forth very easily. So this is really a nice way of or helping you to organize the way that you work. And for $40 to $50 is a decent purchase. So there you go. There's a link out in the show notes for everyone to get a hold of the application. This is from extendoffice.com, EXTEND office.com. And it's not a bad little deal. I've been using this for years and absolutely love it.
Good deal.
Yeah. And that, kids, is the show. For everybody here, this has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 92. It's not hard enough. Apple's Nano Glass. Recorded live Sunday, June 2nd, 2024, live from iTechGear Central. For Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, Mr. Chris Gavula, and Brother Joe McLaughlin, I want to say, hey, everybody, we will see you next time.